This is a mind game. I want you to understand that wanting to get along with everyone is different from wanting not to argue with anyone.
Exactly. And
If you start thinking in this direction, you will really begin to see the world from an entirely new and profound perspective. You explain how you want not to argue with anyone and think that this is your personal heartfelt desire. But in reality, you have once again formed a subconscious judgment about reality. The judgment is that in this specific environment, I frequently find myself engaging in arguments.
yes,
Just let me neutralize this.
in principle, the environment is hostile. And even if it is, at least I should be nice in this nasty environment. And then there is some chance that I won't argue with anyone.
However, this is an internal effort to restrain and manage the frustration that you have already set up in advance. If you openly declare that you truly want to get along with everyone, things start to change in a fundamentally different way. Then you start looking for various options, seeking new opportunities and different ways to get along with everyone. And that is exactly when you begin to truly understand how to create your very own world. You start looking for exactly what you want and what beneficial and constructive outcomes you truly wish to achieve, rather than simply focusing on what you don't want to happen based on your own personal judgment. This is a crucial and deeply transformative life lesson. And if you begin to reflect in this specific way on what you constantly comment on and say, you will realize that in an overwhelming 97% of cases, the vast majority of your daily statements actually begin with the word no. And they don't start with, I want to achieve such and such.
When someone tells us something in the same way, because it's a habit for us on all levels, our first response is always no. And only then do we even start to think about what is being said to us.
It is exactly for this specific reason, the very existence of this response, no. What does it actually plant inside of your mind?
All the impossibilities, all the options for denial, the cutting off and gradual shrinking.
What is the brain looking for?
Well, a problem, not to let it happen.
It is exactly that deep sense of denial, the specific way you insist things won't happen, and all throughout the course of your entire life, you actually constantly find yourself explaining in detail exactly how things won't work out. And then after all that, you get so upset that they didn't happen? Well, don't you think that is just a complete and utter, truly stupid paradox? You keep explaining how things will never work out for you, how things simply won't happen, how you'll experience deep fears, how you'll encounter major problems, how you'll have issues with your children, how you'll have problems with your partner, how you'll face serious difficulties so far. What have you set in motion? Based on what I just said, what did you really set in motion? Did you set any kind of positive outcome? Or even, could you provide me that answer again? But I actively initiate and set into motion what I deeply desire. I set into motion what I truly desire. I thoughtfully comment upon what I desire. And I share what I desire this way. I firmly close the door to all distractions so that I only wish for what I truly and honestly want.
Ultimately, due to these specific reasons,
I want you to try today, as a simple mental exercise, to speak positively about the various desires you have, and you will begin to notice how quiet you become. Because actually, as you try to come up with them, your brain simply does not have the neural pathways to create those positive sentences. Let me repeat this again. I'm telling you, your brain simply doesn't have the established pathways that create positive sentences. It is important to understand that your brain only has ingrained pathways for negation, only pathways for seeking out problems, and only pathways for constant denial.
but without any real safeguards, there is absolutely no protection for that pride present.
Argumentative and prideful.
Yes, all of these various different things are happening, and they might even seem quite positive and beneficial to you right now. That doesn't mean you're simply bad-mouthing or speaking ill of others. It means that even if you say, I've personally experienced it this way in your own life, and you openly brag and boast about it to everyone.
That's already a negation. Because even boasting means I am different from others. In other words, the idea is to see beyond the words.
What is really being projected? Because even that is, in a way, trying to make yourself seem interesting.
I mean, I definitely know in a completely different sort of way, that's also just trying to make yourself seem interesting. And in this way, if someone else tells you, I know the joke in a different way, and repeats it to you 150 times, how would that make you feel? You tell a joke and someone says, I know it a different way. Then you tell a second joke and they say, I know it a different way. Then you tell a third joke. How would you feel if this person always claims to know the joke differently but never actually tells a joke themselves? That's exactly what we're talking about. And then you begin to wonder to yourself whether, when you sit down at the dinner table, do you discuss the table, the food, or the specific way that the meal has been prepared, or do you just talk about work? Because usually when we are sitting at the table, you always want to talk about work. And then when we finally go to work, you want to talk about what we will eat tonight and where we will go, to a club or a nice restaurant.
And
actually, while you're sitting at the dinner table, you're deeply thinking about work.
yes.
Do you actually think about the table, about the activity you've started? Because eating is also an activity for you. No, you don't think about the activity you're engaged in. You're thinking about something else. So, at that moment, where does your focus go? On something else. If your focus is entirely on something else, just how much attention are you actually paying to the food you're eating right now?
And the other thing is, the same paradox remains. It's like you say, I don't want French fries, or I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to be at the table. I want to be at work and think about it. And so you always you're not dedicated to what you're doing.
All right. For 5 minutes, gladly pay attention to the food, to the lovely Katie, and to the entire meal. Go ahead and pour yourself a refreshing drink that perfectly complements or pairs exceptionally well with that food. As a result, once you have finished focusing and enjoying your meal, you get up from the table and transition back to your professional work. And while you are working, you do not feel the need to comment on what you just ate. Your head should be deeply focused on what you're working on right now. And then you get on the bus or the trolley bus or the subway. You might comment on the mode of transportation itself, or perhaps the way you got on. What have you managed to do today? Well, you could comment on what you did at work and the meal you are eating for dinner tonight. The main idea is that this way you focus your mind on the things you're doing right now, on what's happening right here and now. If you go to the grocery store, talk about the items you're going to buy there, and so on.
It's actually a skill, not some kind of super state, right? The kind we read about in books and things like that. You just need to practice it.
And the fundamental concept behind this approach is that if you start closing the door to distractions in this way, when I'm speaking, my entire focus is on what I'm saying. When I'm doing something, I don't talk about something else. When I'm fully immersed and engaged in a specific activity, I simply do not talk about anything else at all.
When I'm somewhere else, when I'm with someone, not to think.
By adopting this approach, your training becomes much more focused on the specific action you are performing at this very moment. In this way, your thoughts and your actions are concentrated on a single objective, on the exact same choice. Your mental intent and your physical execution are both entirely centered on making that same deliberate choice. And this choice we make is the cross energy between thought and action, which always leads to a physical manifestation. You see, what is manifestation really? When you say, I manifest, these are not merely empty words. If in the very next moment your actions are completely contrary to your intentions, then you won't manifest anything at all. Precisely for this reason, The core idea is to realize that manifestation itself is the essential cross energy between your inner thought and outer action.